The first time Claire noticed it, she thought nothing of it. Daisy had always been an independent cat, but this was different. Every night, at almost the same time, Daisy slipped from the living room and padded toward the basement door. Her tail low, her ears pricked. Claire called her back. Daisy didn't come. The little tabby froze halfway down the stairs, glanced over her shoulder, then disappeared into the shadows below. The next night, the same thing, and the next. By the fourth night, Claire's unease had grown into a dull ache in her chest. She tried to stop Daisy, but the cat hissed, low and sharp, before vanishing again. It wasn't like her at all. Daisy never hissed at her. Sometimes Claire could hear noises when Daisy was down there. A rustle, a faint whimper, maybe. She told herself it was just mice. But Daisy wasn't hunting. She was guarding, watching. That night, Claire waited until Daisy crept down the stairs again, heart hammering. She followed her silently. The air was damp, heavy, and then she froze. From the darkness, something moved, something alive. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. What would you have done if your pet acted like this? Claire stood still, her hand gripping the railing, her breath caught halfway in her throat. The basement smelled of dust, cardboard, and the faint sourness of damp cement. Daisy's green eyes glowed in the low light, fixed on a shadowed corner behind a pile of boxes. Her body was low, taut, tail swishing with intent. Not the posture of a hunter, but a guardian. Claire whispered her name. Daisy. The cat didn't turn. She gave a soft growl, but it wasn't directed at Claire. It was meant for whatever was in the dark. Claire's skin prickled. She strained her ears. There was again, softer this time, a faint whimper, not the skitter of a rat, not the squeak of a mouse. This was different, thinner, fragile, almost like the cry of something young. She crept further down the stairs, each creak would sounding far too loud. Daisy crouched lower, but her ears stayed forward, her gaze locked on the gap between two tilted boxes. Claire slowly moved closer, the smell of mildew stronger the nearer she got. The whimper came again. Then another sound, raspy breathing, uneven, as if whatever was down there struggled for air. Claire's first thought was wild animals. Maybe a raccoon, maybe a possum, something that had wandered in and gotten trapped. Her stomach knotted at the idea of her daughter, Emily, stumbling across it. Emily was only 8. If something dangerous was hiding in the basement, she needed to deal with it now. She reached for the nearest box, fingers trembling. It was heavy, full of old books, and shifting it scraped across the concrete floor. Daisy hissed sharply, not at her, but toward the shadow, as if warning the hidden thing to stay back. The sound that came in response froze Claire in place. A tiny yelp, high-pitched, weak. Her heart lurched. That wasn't a rat. That wasn't any wild animal she'd ever heard. She shoved another box aside, then another, until her shaking hands uncovered the source. In the dim corner, tucked inside an old laundry basket, lay a bundle of matted fur. A puppy, small, shivering. Its ribs showed through its patchy coat, every breath shallow and labored. A piece of rope hung loosely from its neck, frayed and dirty, the knot jagged as if cut or chewed through. Claire's throat went dry. "Oh, my God!" she whispered. Daisy inched closer, body curved detectively in front of the basket. The cat looked back at Claire, eyes wide, unblinking, then lowered her head and gave a soft trill, the sound she used when comforting Emily. The puppy let out another pitiful whine, so faint it almost didn't reach her ears. Claire knelt down slowly, palms out. "It's okay," she murmured, more to herself than to the trembling creature. She glanced at Daisy. The cat didn't strike or swat. She stayed close, fur bristled, but she didn't push Claire away. Claire leaned closer. The puppy's smell was sharp, urine, dirt, neglect. Its paws were raw, tiny claws cracked, as if it had been scratching against something hard for too long. How did you get here?" Claire whispered. The words slipped out without thought. She scanned the basement. No broken window, no hole in the wall, no sign of forced entry. Nothing made sense. She reached out carefully. The puppy flinched, curling into itself, eyes squeezed shut, her chest tightened. She remembered Emily as a baby, curled just like that in her crib. Fragile and trusting. This animal wasn't trusting. It was terrified. Claire pulled back slightly. Daisy stepped forward, brushing her body against the basket, then sat down as if to guard it. She meowed once, firm, almost demanding. "You've been hiding this every night," Claire breathed. The puppy coughed, a rough, dry sound, then whimpered again. Daisy looked from the puppy to Claire, back and forth, until her meaning was clear. Claire swallowed hard. This wasn't a chance accident. Daisy had known. Daisy had chosen to protect it. She slid her arms under the tiny body. It was lighter than she expected, all bones under matted fur. The puppy squirmed weakly but didn't resist. Its eyes cracked open, dark, glassy, filled with something between fear and exhaustion. The rope around its neck scraped against her skin. She wanted to cry. Someone had done this. Someone had left it here. Claire held it against her chest, feeling its trembling seep into her bones. Daisy stood up instantly, following as she carried it upstairs. The cat brushed against her legs, refusing to leave her side. In the light of the kitchen, the puppy looked even worse. Thin as paper, patches of hair missing, tiny ribs rising and falling too quickly. Claire grabbed a towel, wrapped it gently, and placed it on the counter. Daisy jumped up, sniffed the puppy, and then curled against it, purring loudly, as if offering warmth her own body lacked. Claire's hand shook as she filled a small bowl with water, setting it near the towel. The puppy licked at it weakly, then coughed again. She added a little milk, knowing it wasn't perfect, but it was something. Emily's footsteps sounded from the hallway. "Mom, what are you doing?" Claire spun around. Emily's wide eyes landed on the counter. "A puppy!" she gasped, rushing forward. "Wait, careful," Claire said quickly, holding her back. "He's very sick." Emily froze, staring at the shivering bundle. Her lip quivered. Who hurt him? Claire didn't answer. She didn't know, but she felt the answer pressing around them, heavy and silent. Whoever left the puppy in her basement hadn't wanted it to live. Emily reached out, barely touching the towel. "Can we keep him? Please." Claire looked at her daughter, then at Daisy, who was still pressed against the tiny body, eyes half closed but alert. The cat purred louder, protective, maternal. For a moment, Claire let herself imagine it. Emily laughing, Daisy curling up beside the puppy, the house filled with something lighter than the dread she felt now. But the rope around its neck was a reminder. Someone had tied it. Someone had abandoned it. Someone out there knew exactly what they had done, and that someone might not be finished. Claire turned toward the window, blinds half open to the dark street beyond. A cold ripple ran down her spine. She couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. The puppy whimpered again. Daisy growled softly. Something, or someone, was out there, watching. Claire hadn't slept. The puppy lay curled in a basket lined with towels. Daisy pressed close against it, purring like a motor that wouldn't stop. Every time Claire tried to move the puppy away, even just to check its paws or clean the rope burns, Daisy tensed, ears back, eyes hard. She didn't hiss, but the warning was clear. Don't take him from me. Claire had never seen her cat behave this way. Daisy had tolerated Emily pulling her tail as a toddler. She had endured vet visits, baths, even neighborhood dogs that barked too close. But now she stood guard like a lioness, body curved protectively around this fragile scrap of life. Claire sat at the table, a mug of cold coffee in her hands, staring at them. She tried to piece it together. The basement window was locked. The door had been shut. How could a half-dead puppy just appear in a laundry basket behind old boxes? She replayed the moment again and again. The yelp, the rope, Daisy leading her there. It didn't add up. "Mom!" Emily's small voice broke the silence. She padded into the kitchen, hair messy from sleep. Her eyes went straight to the basket. "Is he better?" Claire shook her head. "Not yet, sweetie. He needs food. A vet." Emily knelt beside Daisy, reaching a cautious hand toward the puppy. Daisy sniffed her fingers, then relaxed, letting her stroke the tiny head. The puppy stirred weakly, pressed closer against the cat's fur. "He likes Daisy," Emily whispered, almost reverently. "She's his mom now." Claire's throat tightened. "Maybe," she murmured. But inside, she was torn. If she took the puppy to the vet, questions would follow. People would want to know where it came from. And Claire had no answers. She imagined the town gossip. Single mother, strange dog in her basement, probably careless, probably hiding something. That kind of talk traveled fast. Her eyes drifted again to the frayed rope. Whoever had tied it around his neck had meant harm. Had they left it here deliberately? In her house? Why? A sharp knock on the door made her jump. Daisy instantly growled, a deep sound vibrating through her chest. The puppy whimpered. Claire pressed a finger to her lips. Emily froze. Another knock. Harder this time. Claire forced her legs to move, setting the mud down with a quiet clink. She went to the door, heart thudding. "Mrs. Turner?" A man's voice. Her neighbor, Mr. Wilkes. Retired, sharp-eyed, always complaining about kids riding bikes too close to his yard. Claire opened the door a crack. "Yes." Wilkes adjusted his cap, eyes darting past her into the hallway. "You seen any strays around? Been trouble lately. Some folks dumping animals they don't want. Last week someone found a litter by the creek." Claire's stomach twisted. "No," she lied quickly. "Haven't seen any." His gaze lingered on her, suspicious, before he grunted and stepped back. "Well, keep your eyes open. Nuisance, that's what they are." He turned and shuffled away, muttering to himself. Claire shut the door fast, locked it, leaned against the wood. Her hands were cold. Back in the kitchen, Daisy hadn't moved. Her body curved around the puppy. Her rumbling steady, eyes narrowed toward the door as if she'd understood every word. Emily frowned. "Why didn't you tell him?" "Because he wouldn't understand," Claire said. Emily bit her lip. "You think someone left him here on purpose, don't you?" Claire didn't answer. That night, she carried the basket upstairs to her bedroom. Daisy jumped in beside it immediately, settling like a sentry. Claire lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint breaths of the puppy. Every so often he whimpered, and Daisy answered with a soft trill, pressing her body closer. It was strange, but also undeniable. Daisy had chosen him. The next morning, Claire tried again to lift the puppy from a basket. Daisy blocked her, paws braced, eyes flashing. She meowed sharply, a sound that left no room for negotiation. "Daisy, he needs care," Claire whispered. But the cat only tightened her body around him, licking his head with rough, insistent strokes. Claire sat back, defeated. "You really think you know best, don't you?" Daisy blinked slowly, then continued grooming. Emily giggled softly. "She's his mom now," she repeated. Claire wanted to argue, but part of her, the part that saw the way the puppy relaxed only when Daisy touched him, believed it too. Still, the questions gnawed at her. If someone had hurt this animal, they might come looking for him. And if they came here, Claire's eyes drifted toward the window again. The curtains were open just a crack, enough to see the street, enough maybe for someone to be watching. She stood quickly, tugged them shut. Her heart beat too fast. "Mom," Emily asked softly. "Nothing," Claire said. "It's nothing." But she didn't believe it. Not for a second. Down in the basket, the puppy whimpered again, curling against Daisy's warmth. The cat purred louder, steady, unyielding, as if she made a decision Claire hadn't yet dared to make. The decision to protect him, no matter what. And in that moment, Claire realized something chilling. Maybe Daisy had been the one to find him. Maybe Daisy had dragged the basket there, night after night, hiding him where Claire wouldn't see. Because Daisy knew he needed her, knew he wasn't safe. And maybe Daisy also knew who he was hiding from. By the third day, the puppy had a little more strength. He could stand, though his legs wobbled like twigs in the wind. His eyes, once dull and cloudy, began to follow movement. He drank water eagerly now, lapping until his tongue tired. Every step he took, Daisy was there, brushing against him, licking his ears, curling around his body when he slept. Claire had never seen Daisy so fierce, so alive with purpose. The cat barely ate her own food unless the puppy was beside her. At night, she refused to leave his side. When Claire tried to carry the basket into another room, Daisy followed, meowing until it was set down again. It was as if the cat had decided, he belongs to us. Still, the marks around the puppy's neck haunted Claire. Angry red grooves, scabbed over, told of a rope tied too tight for too long. His paws, still raw, hinted at scratching against a hard surface, concrete maybe, or wood. Whoever had done this hadn't meant kindness. And in a small town, secrets never stayed hidden. By the end of the week, whispers had started. At the grocery store, a woman leaned over to another near the bread aisle, speaking just loud enough. "Did you hear? Claire Turner's keeping some stray dog, found in her basement, of all places." "Dangerous," the other replied. "Can't trust animals that come from nowhere." Claire walked past them, face burning. She gripped her cart harder, head down, but she could feel their eyes on her. Later at the pharmacy, she overheard again. "I bet it belonged to someone. Maybe that Wilkes man, always yelling at his dogs. Maybe he tossed this one out when it got sick." The words lodged in Claire's chest. She thought of Mr. Wilkes at her door, his sharp eyes, his question about strays. Could it be true? That night, after Emily went to bed, Claire sat on the couch, staring at the basket near her feet. The puppy was asleep, his thin body rising and falling against Daisy's warm fur. Claire whispered, "Who did this to you?" Daisy lifted her head, eyes glinting in the dim lamplight, as if she too wanted an answer. The following days only deepened the mystery. A neighbor warned her outright on the street, "You best be careful. If that dog belonged to the wrong person, they'll come asking for it." Claire forced a smile, but her hands shook long after. And then came the nights. It began with a sound, soft, too deliberate to be wind. A crunch of gravel outside the front window. Claire froze at the sink, dish in her hand, listening. When she pulled the curtain back, no one was there. The next night, she heard it again. A faint shuffle, like footsteps retreating quickly once the porch light clicked on. By the third night, she knew it wasn't her imagination. Someone was watching the house. She locked every door, double-checked every window. She pulled Emily closer when tucking her in, kissing her forehead longer than usual. Daisy stayed restless, tail twitching, ears turning toward the front of the house, even when she lay beside the puppy. Claire tried to tell herself it was coincidence. Kids playing, a stray animal, anything but what her gut whispered. But when she came down the next morning, she saw it. Boot prints in the damp dirt just below the kitchen window. She gripped the counter until her knuckles whitened. The puppy whimpered behind her, as if sensing her fear. Daisy rose instantly, pressing against him, purring harder. "Shoo!" Claire whispered, crouching to stroke them both. "I've got you." But the words felt fragile, thin. That afternoon, Emily came running into the kitchen, her face bright. "Mom." He wagged his tail. Claire turned. The puppy stood shakily in the basket, tail moving just enough to stir the towel beneath him. Emily clapped her hands, laughing. Daisy circled him, rubbing her body along his side, proud and protective. For a moment, warmth filled the room. Claire let herself smile. But even then, her eyes drifted toward the window, toward the street beyond. She couldn't escape the thought. Someone out there was waiting, watching. And if they had once tied a rope so tight it scarred, what would they do to get him back? Claire pulled the curtains shut, her chest tight. She would protect him, protect all of them. Daisy had already made that choice. Now she would too. But as she switched off the lights and carried the basket upstairs, she couldn't shake the feeling that the house no longer belonged only to them. The night outside pressed close, heavy and waiting. And somewhere in it, unseen eyes followed their every move. By the next week, Claire couldn't take it anymore. The whispers, the footsteps at night, the weight of the rope still hanging in her thoughts. Someone had hurt this puppy, and someone wanted him back. And every time she passed her neighbor's yard, the answer seemed to stare her in the face. Mr. Wilkes. He'd always been cruel, with animals, yanking his dogs by the collar, shouting if they barked too loud, kicking at strays that wandered near his porch. Claire remembered once, years ago, seeing him throw a half-empty beer can at a cat that crossed his lawn. His face had been red with anger, eyes small and mean. Now, whenever she glimpsed him, her stomach knotted. One evening, after Emily went to bed, she stood on her porch and watched Wilkes smoking by a shed. The street was quiet, air heavy with the smell of burning leaves. She crossed the road before she could talk herself out of it. "Mr. Wilkes," she called. He turned, squinting through the smoke. "Evening." Her voice shook, but she forced the words out. "Do you know anything about a puppy?" "Small, brown, rope marks on his neck. He was left in my basement." His brows furrowed, deep lines creasing his forehead. "Basement?" He gave a dry laugh. "Lady, I don't know what kind of circus you're running, but I don't dump animals in people's houses." Claire crossed her arms. "People are saying People say a lot of things." His tone snapped like a whip. "I take care of my animals. They're mine. You mind yours." He flicked his cigarette into the dirt, grinding it beneath his boot, then turned his back. The conversation was over. Claire stood frozen. His denial didn't ease her. If anything, it made the shadows inside her stretch longer. She walked home quickly, glancing over her shoulder. Daisy was waiting at the door, as if sensing her unease. Inside, the puppy whimpered, and Claire scooped him up, pressing him against her chest. "It wasn't him," she whispered, though she didn't believe it. Or maybe it was. That night, she heard footsteps again outside the window. She stayed awake, gripping the phone, listening until the sounds faded. The following afternoon, while Emily played in the yard, Claire sat on the porch steps, basket beside her. The puppy dozed against Daisy, their small bodies curled like puzzle pieces. Sunlight warmed their fur, a fragile piece. Then a voice broke it. "Mrs. Turner?" Claire looked up. A boy stood near the edge of the yard. 15, maybe 16. Tall, thin, with a mop of dark hair that fell into his eyes. She recognized him instantly. Ethan Wilkes, the neighbor's son. "Ethan," she said cautiously. He shifted, glancing back at his house, then at the street, before stepping closer. His voice was low, urgent. "I need to tell you something, but you can't tell my dad." Claire straightened, heart thudding. "What is it?" His gaze fell to the basket. Daisy's ears twitched, eyes narrowing as if she knew. The puppy stirred, let out a soft yip. Ethan's face tightened. "I put him there," he whispered. Claire blinked. "What?" "The puppy. I put him in your basement. I knew Daisy would find him. She always comes by our yard. She's smart. She'd keep him safe." The words landed heavy, sinking into her. "You hit him?" Ethan nodded quickly. His eyes glistened, though his jaw stayed tight. "My dad." He was hurting him. Worse than you think. He tied him up out back, wouldn't feed him, kicked him if he cried. I couldn't watch any more. His voice cracked, raw with shame and fury. So I cut the rope. I carried him over. I left him with Daisy because I didn't know what else to do. Claire's breath caught. The scars, the rope, the fear. Suddenly, every piece slid into place. Ethan rubbed his sleeve across his face. "Please don't tell him. If he finds out, he swallowed, words unfinished. "He'll hurt me too. Or worse. Please, just keep him safe. That's all I want." Claire stared at him, torn. She wanted to call someone, to shout the truth, to expose Wilkes for what he was. But the boy's eyes held her, pleading, desperate. He was still just a child, trapped in a house with cruelty she could barely imagine. "I shouldn't even be here," Ethan whispered, stepping back. "If he sees me..." "Wait!" Claire's voice softened. "You did the right thing." He shook his head hard. "No, I should have done more. But at least he's not there anymore. That's enough." Ethan turned quickly, retreating across the street, disappearing into the shadow of his father's porch. Claire sat frozen on the steps, the puppy breathing soft against Daisy's fur, Emily laughing in the grass nearby. Her hands trembled. The truth was out now. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't chance. It was a boy's act of defiance, hidden in the dark, delivered into Daisy's care. And Claire knew the danger wasn't gone. If Wilkes ever suspected his son, or discovered the puppy alive across the street, her chest tightened. She pulled the basket closer, stroking Daisy's head. The cat blinked slowly, calm, resolute, as if she'd been waiting for this truth all along. "You knew," Claire whispered. "You knew he needed us." Daisy purred, curling tighter around the puppy. But outside, beyond the safety of the porch, the air fell heavy. Claire understood now. Saving the puppy was only the beginning. Keeping him safe, from Wilkes, from the town, from the past, would take more than Daisy's watchful eyes. It would take courage. And Claire wasn't sure if she had enough. The days after Ethan's confession fell heavier, as though every step Claire took was watched. She kept the curtains drawn, doors locked, lights on through the night. The puppy gained strength slowly, legs steadier, eyes brighter, tail wagging more often. But the rope scars around his neck still whispered of where he'd come from. Daisy never left him. She licked his fur, curled around him, guided his shaky steps across the living room floor. If he stumbled, Daisy meowed and nudged him back up. Emily watched in awe. "It's like she's teaching him," she whispered one night. Claire saw it too. Daisy had become more than a cat. She was protector, nurse, mother. But Claire knew it wasn't enough. Ethan needed protecting too. One evening, after putting Emily to bed, Claire found him waiting at the edge of her yard again, shoulders hunched, hands stuffed into his pockets. He looked smaller than he had days ago. When he saw her, relief flickered in his eyes. "Is he okay?" he asked quickly. Claire nodded. "He's getting stronger." His shoulders sagged with visible relief. But then his face darkened. "My dad's been worse. Drinking more. Yelling. He keeps asking about the puppy. He thinks someone took it." Claire's chest tightened. "Ethan, I can't tell him it was me." His voice cracked. "If I do, he'll," he swallowed. "But I can't just let him keep doing it either." For a moment, Claire saw not just a boy, but a soul caught in a cage, desperate for a door. "You did something brave," she said gently. "Braver than most adults would. You saved a life. That matters." Tears brimmed in his eyes. He blinked them back, shaking his head. "It's not enough." Claire wanted to tell him it was. But she knew he was right. Saving the puppy was only the start. Over the next week, Ethan came quietly after school, helping feed the puppy, brushing his thin coat. Daisy tolerated him, even leaned against his hand once, as if recognizing his heart. Emily accepted him too, treating him like an older brother. Claire watched, something stirring inside her she hadn't expected. Hope. Then one evening, everything broke. From across the street, Wilkes's voice thundered, shattering the quiet. "Ethan, get in here." The boy froze on Claire's porch. His father's figure loomed in the yard, shadow thick against the porch light. "I know what you did." Wilkes roared. Ethan's face drained of color. Claire's pulse raced. Before she could stop herself, she stepped forward. "He's not going anywhere." Wilkes's eyes snapped to her. "Cold. Hard. Stay out of this." But Ethan straightened. His voice shook, but it carried. "No, Dad. I'm done." Wilkes took a step closer, rage twisting his face. But Ethan didn't flinch. For the first time, he stood taller than the fear. "You're not hurting him again. You're not hurting me either." Silence stretched. The air vibrated with tension. Then Claire spoke, her voice steady. "If you come near this house again, I'll call the police. And I'll tell them everything." Wilkes's jaw tightened, his fist clenched. But he didn't move closer. He spat into the dirt, muttered something bitter, and turned back into his house, slamming the door so hard the porch rattled. Ethan's knees shook. Claire caught his arm, steadying him. Daisy meowed from the doorway, low and firm, as if warning the darkness to stay away. That night, Ethan didn't go home. Claire made up the couch, gave him a blanket. He slept lighter than air, but in his dreams, the tension finally eased. Days turned to weeks. The puppy grew stronger, his ribs filling out, his tail wagging fast now when Emily called. Daisy remained at his side, but she no longer bristled with fear. Instead, she carried herself with calm pride, guiding him as he learned to climb stairs, chase toys, and curl against Emily's lap. The town's whispers faded. Some neighbors still frowned, but others softened, touched by the sight of Emily walking down the street with Daisy on one side and the puppy trotting clumsily on the other. Claire ignored the judgment. She had chosen. She kept the puppy. She kept Ethan close too, giving him safety when his own home could not. And slowly, he began to believe in himself. His shoulders straightened. His voice grew steadier. He laughed sometimes, tentative, then real. One evening, as he brushed the puppy's fur, he whispered, "Thank you." Claire touched his shoulder. "You save him first. Don't forget that." His eyes shone and he nodded. Months later, winter settled over the town. The basement was warmer now, lined with rugs and blankets. Emily often played there, drawing pictures while the puppy, bigger now, stronger, chased her crayons. Daisy still claimed her basket, but she shared it willingly with her unlikely child. One night, as Claire tucked Emily in, she paused at the top of the stairs, listening. From below came the soft sound of paws, the creak of floorboards, then silence. She peeked down. There they were, Daisy and the puppy, curled together in the basket, their bodies pressed close, breathing in rhythm. The same corner where fear once lived now held something else entirely. Warmth, safety, love. Claire felt tears rise. She pressed a hand over her heart. The basement no longer held shadows. It held family.